بكر يحلق لي بالصبح قال لي أنا باجي لقيتهم الثلج وهربتهم.
ما فاتوا. ولا باقي. أقول لك حاجة.
أنت تقول لي هرب شوية.
لا. Look at my masterpiece. I drew this myself. Yes.
You want an award?
That's the word we're trying to spread today. It's peace for Yemen.
Yeah, Adam, fill in the E and the N. It looks done.
So Yemen has been in a civil war since 2015. It's the site of the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And we've had thousands and thousands of innocent Yemeni civilians killed during the war by all sides of the war. What we're here today is a demonstration to talk about, the Yemeni lives that are being lost during this war, to call for all the warring parties to be held accountable, and to make sure that the public is aware of what's going on in Yemen. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of parties involved in Yemen. You have the Houthis, which are an Iranian-backed group who overthrew the civilian government in 2015 and tried to, in essence, take over the entire country. You have the Saudi-led coalition, which is supporting the internationally recognized Yemeni government and helping them militarily to push back against the Houthi forces, who are in intense fighting right now throughout Yemen, mostly in the northern region.
It's all here for Yemen. So we are a Yemeni youth group attempting to deliver a full picture of the war in Yemen and advocating for peace and justice. Our mission is to hold the war in Yemen. Our mission is to hold everyone who is responsible for the misery of the Yemeni people accountable. So I will introduce Sheikh Hassan Akbar. He is the Imam of Mona Center. Will be sharing some words of guidance and praying for the innocent civilians.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope all of you have made at least one Umrah or Hajj, because we are in front of the Saudi embassy, so maybe this might be the last Hajj or Umrah. If you haven't done it already, I feel bad for you. May Allah open a way. Ameen. Equal justice for all and ending the violence and the bloodshed. This is our call. When you look at any conflict, you find that both sides are only able to see the harm that they have received. They will say that we did not start this. It was them. It was them. But the truth of the matter is that it doesn't matter who started it first, who was the one to initiate the harm. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold accountable those who initiate and instigate acts of terror and violence and murder. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also hold us accountable for the way in which we respond to that transgression. Yes, Allah will punish those who initiated the harm. But let us not forget that reciprocating harm is also forbidden in our religion. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "La darara wa la dirara," that there should be no harming and no reciprocation of harm between two parties. If we are to examine this situation, this calamity, this crisis that is unfolding in Yemen, what do we find? What do we see? وَأَنَا لَسْتُ بِعَرَبٍ, and I'm not an Arab, but I can see that it is Arabs killing Arabs, Muslims killing Muslims, brothers killing brothers, both sides shouting, Allahu Akbar. How is this the case? Let us look to the two sons of Adam alayhi salam, Habil and Qabil. And maybe we can benefit and take a lesson from the first murder to ever have taken place in the history of humanity. I want you, those who are present, to examine the words of Habil when his brother Qabil came to him and said, لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ, I am going to kill you. Open threat, open warning, no intention was hidden. What was the response of Habil? What was his response? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that he said, لَإِن بَسَطْتَ إِلَيَّ يَدَكَ لَتَقْتُلَنِي مَا أَنَا بِبَاسِطٍ يَدِيَ إِلَيْكَ لَأَقْتُلَكَ. That if you extend your hand forward to kill me, to harm me, to shed my blood, that I will not extend my hand to you and kill you in return. Ask yourselves the question, why? Why wouldn't Habil fight back? Why wouldn't he defend himself? Why wouldn't he shed the blood of the one who is trying to shed his blood? Think about it. Habil tells us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed for us in that same ayah his reason why. He said, Inni akhafullah Rabbil Alameen. It is because I fear Allah, the Lord of the worlds. It is because he feared Allah, the Lord of the worlds, brothers and sisters. But what is it that Habil he feared? What is it that he feared? Look to the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which it is authentically reported that he said, لَن يَزَالَ الْمُؤْمِنُ فِي فُسْحَةٍ مِّن دِينِهِ مَا لَمْ يُصِبْ دَمًا حَرَامًا. That the believer will continue to safeguard his faith. The believer will continue to protect her faith and continue to hope for the mercy of Allah as long as they do not shed blood unjustly. And with that in mind, we are here today and we are demanding both sides, regardless of who started it, we are demanding both sides to stop the violence, stop the bloodshed. And if they are unwilling and if they are unable to do so, then we should remind them that there is no barrier from the dua reaching Allah of the one who is oppressed. And we stand here united demanding that if they don't have the taqwa to put down their arms and to stop the bloodshed and killing, then at least if they truly believe in Allah and the last day and they have any ounce of goodness in them, that at least they should stop targeting the civilians. End the violence, stop the bloodshed, equal rights and justice for all. This is our call. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Don't you cry?
Don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die.
Son of Yemen, don't you cry?
Son of Yemen, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die.
Ta'az Yemen, don't you cry?
That is Yemen, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die.
Man of Yemen, don't you cry?
Man of Yemen, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die.
So for those who don't know, the war in Yemen began late in 2014 when the Iran-backed Houthis rebel overthrew the Yemeni government and exiled them to Saudis, causing the formatting of the Saudis UAE coalition in 2015. And since then, the Iran-backed Houthis and the Saudis and the UAE Emirates have all been killing civilians without any accountability. And that is why we are here today with the Saudi and Emirates Consulate, as well as the United Nations allocated to tell them all to stop the war in Yemen. Stop the war in Yemen.
Stop the war in Yemen.
Stop the war in Yemen.
Stop Stop the war in Yemen!
Stop the war in Yemen!
Stop the war in Yemen!
And we demanded the UN repress Yemen to the International Criminal Court. Because when Saudi and the UAE dropped US-made bombs on Yemeni civilians, the Houthis responded by firing Iranian rockets and drones at Yemeni cities, killing even more Yemeni civilians. Just last week, when Saudi killed more than 70 Yemenis in one airstrike on the Berzin and Sada and wiped out a whole family in Sana'a, the Houthis responded by killing more civilians in Taiz and Marib, and this is the cycle that has been repeating since 2014. And you and I have to bring that to an end. So, repeat after me. Marib Yemen, don't you cry.
Marib Yemen, don't you cry.
We'll never let you die.
We will never let you die.
Sana'a Yemen, don't you cry.
Sana'a Yemen, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die.
Taiz Yemen, don't you cry.
Taiz Yemen, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
We will never let you die. Justice!
When do we want it?
No!
That's right, we want justice. We want justice for Yemen, for Yemenis. Because for far too long, the people who have been impacted, struggling, dying of famine, disease, COVID, bombs, rockets, AK-47s, have been Yemeni civilians, innocent individuals who are trying to survive a civil war. It's very important for us to stand here in this UN plaza because we have to tell the world that our blood isn't cheap. When one of us dies, all of us are hurt by it. When one of us is starving, all of us are hungry. And we all deserve to live in peace, right? Yes. Come on. Do we all deserve to live in peace?
Yes!
Thank you. So it's important that after every atrocity, whether it's committed by the Saudis and their coalition, the UAE or the United States bombs, or it's committed by the Houthis who are supported by Iran. It doesn't matter who's doing the killing, because all that should matter to us is who's dying. And who is dying is our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our daughters, our sons. And we all feel that impact. And we have to call it out, because it's not going to stop if we remain silent, right? And since the conflict began, there have been more than 10,000 children who have died. They weren't part of the war. They're not fighting the war. They are the victims of the war. And that's extremely important for us to remember. Most of them have died because of hunger. Because when there is a civil war, when your life is turned upside down, when you can't go to school anymore, when you are worried about the next bomb or the next bullet that's going to pass by you, it's a tough time to survive, and it's a struggle. And that's what we're seeing in Yemen. And Yemenis are not numbers. I know we're throwing out numbers, and it's devastating, but we're more than just numbers. We are human beings, and our lives should matter. Let's do a chant really quick. Yemeni lives matter.
Yemeni lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Yemeni lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Yemeni lives matter.
If you believe that, then take an oath today, a commitment to each other, to all of us here, that when an atrocity happens, when there is a human rights violation, that you are going to commit to yourself, to your brothers and sisters who are here. You're going to commit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are going to speak out. Can we all take that commitment?
Yes.
Can we all take that commitment?
Yes.
Then let's do it every time, no matter who the aggressors are, no matter who you want to win in this war, no matter who you want to be the victor. You have to call out sin. You have to call out crime, because that is what our deen, that is what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has instructed us to do. So thank you so much for having me. Let's do it one more time. Whose lives matter?
Yemeni lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Yemeni lives matter.
That's right, Yemeni lives matter. Thank you. Let's do some chants again. What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
No.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do
everyone. I am Farhana Hussein. I'm from Bangladesh, and today I'm here to support Yemen. Can everyone hear me well? Yes. Perfect. Okay, let's not look away from the ongoing horror that is going on in Yemen. The horror that is Americans are responsible for. The Biden administration does not seem to stop. And the worst fact is the mainstream media, there was no mainstream media coverage. And also, I want to share the fact that it's been going on for such a long time and there hasn't been much action that has been taken. Due to the recent attack, overall there is about 300 people that were killed, about thousands of people that were injured. As a result, a lot of children in Yemen, they will be living without their parents and will have to live their whole life with so much pain. I would also, since we're in front of the Saudi Consulate, I would also like to mention how the ugly truth that is Saudi Arabia and the UAE is trying to hide from the world behind their dazzling exteriors and the skyscrapers. The fact that their city is built by the slave workers. Workers are the migrants from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Yemen, Egypt, and also that includes India as well. The fact that these workers are brought to the Gulf Arab countries with the promise that they will be having a better life, but once they go to these countries, their passports are taken away, their rights are taken away, and there is no way these people can file. The government does not regulate a pay, even a minimum wage. And as a result, so many migrant workers are dying every single week. 2 people commit suicide from the migrant worker. And the government shut down the tourist attraction, the heat of the desert. But they do not stop the migrant worker from working there with the heat of. So let's get back to Yemen. We as Muslim Ummah, we need to unite because the US or the Western power does not seem to show any sympathy when it comes to Yemen, Kashmir, or Palestine or Uyghur. The US or the Western power is not going to truly save our people. And also the sidekick, Saudi Arabia, they're not going to help either. So we as Muslim Ummah, we need to unite and we need to be powerful so that we can save our own people. So let's pray for Yemen and other countries that are suffering in silence. Everyone, let's say, save Yemen!
Save Yemen!
Thank you.
Alright, there are a lot of Yemenis here right now. And if anyone wants to say anything about Yemen, if anyone has poetry or spoken word that they want to share with us, you guys can come up, you guys can tell us if you want to do it. We don't mind you doing it up here. Saudi out of Yemen now!
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 Iran out of Yemen now!
Iran out of Yemen now!
Emirates out of Yemen now!
Emirates out of Yemen now!
Saudi out of Yemen now!
Saudi out of Yemen now!
Iran out of Yemen now!
Iran out of Yemen now!
Emirates out of Yemen now!
Emirates out of Yemen now!
I would love to thank you all for coming up today despite the weather. Soon. So for those who just came, I would like to remind you that we are here standing for Yemeni innocent civilians against everybody. Everyone who causing their misery locally. The Houthis, originally Saudis, Iranis, Emiratis, whoever caused something in Yemen or killing innocent people, we're here to say no and stop that. I would like to share a personal story that happened to me in 2015. when a very close friend of mine messaged me on Facebook while I was in class, and I thought to myself that I will reply to him once I get out from class. By the time the class ended, my Facebook timeline was flooded with his picture, and people praying that he rests in peace. This is a reality. This is a reality that too many Yemenis, and I promise you, and there is a Yemeni standing out here in the crowd that have experienced the same thing. We're here to say that we need to stop the war in Yemen. So, repeat with me. We are here. Stop the war in Yemen.
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 So for our next speaker, he is a Yemeni American activist, Hassan Akbar.
So الوعد كان 7 أيام. هؤلاء من يعيشون هنا وعدونا أن يكون الحرب مدتها 7 أيام وتنتهي، وها هي الآن تدخل سنتها السابعة. على أي 7 أيام تتحدثون؟ وما هي النتيجة؟ نتيجة حربكم الذي أشعلتم بها على بلادنا غير أن سبقتم دماء الأبرياء ودمرتم اقتصادنا وبنيتنا التحتية. وفوق كل هذا ما اتخذتم عذرا لدخول بلادنا أصبحوا أكثر قوة الآن. ما الذي تفعلونه لمدة 7 سنين؟ تدمرون أرضنا وتقولون أنه ذريعة خوفي. ما هذه ذريعة غبية؟ الآن إنه الوقت لإنهاء الحرب. وفي هذا قد كنت كتبت سابقا عن هذه الحرب بعض البيوت التي أود أن ألقيها على مسامعكم. وأقول فيها: أوقفوا الحرب عن اليمن. كلامي موجه لحكام السعودية والإمارات، حكام الحروب وإشعال الفتن. ألم يأخذ ضمائركم بكاء طفل أمسى من جوعه يئن؟ ألم تحرك مشاعركم رواح أم على ابنها الذي تحت رماد صواريخكم قد دفن؟ ألم تفق عروبتكم وشهامتكم من حسرة أب لقسوة ما يراه يكاد يجن؟ ألم تهتز أبدانكم من صراخ شعب قد أهلكه الجوع والمرض والبطالة والحصار ونقصان اللؤم؟ لكن عن أي ضمير وعروبة وشهامة أحدثكم وأنتم إبليس نفسه لخبثكم قد لعن؟ دعني أخاطب عقولكم، لعل فيكم شخص فطن. 7 سنين وأنتم تحاربون أرضنا، 7 سنين وأنتم تحاربون أرضنا. أما عقلتم أن ما لكم في أرضنا مكان وما لكم من انتصار من علم؟ والتاريخ خلفنا خير شاهد أن ما للغزاة في أرضنا مكان. حتى اسأل العثمان عن صنعاء واسأل البريطان عن عدن. فكفاكم تعبثون بأرضنا، وكفاكم محاولة فما لكم من انتصار من علم. وكلامي موجه للطرفين، سواء من جرائم الذي يعملها الحوثي أو من جرائم التحالف الذي دمرنا بصواريخه وطائراته. نحن هنا اليوم لنقف ضد الدم، لنقف مع الأبرياء والمدنيين. تحيا اليمن! تحيا اليمن! أوقفوا الحرب على اليمن! شكرا.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amr. I'm a Yemeni American, and I just want to say I'm so glad to see you all here. I'm so glad to see you, fighting for the opposition. And I just want to mention also, in Yemen, there's a lot of there's a lot of, well, like tribalism, and there's a lot of like North versus South, issues. And I just want to mention just how one of our previous speakers said we need to unite as a ummah. You know, it's important to notice that we're all Yemenis. You know, whether you're North, whether you're South, we're all one people. And you know, these people that are attacking us, these people that are against us, they all want us to like view each other as enemies, but we're not. You know, we're all one ummah. It's important to like stay hand in hand. It's important to stay strong. And I'm so glad we're all here. You know, whether you're North, whether you're South, whether you're from, you know, another Muslim nation, we're all here together. And I'm so proud to see us all here. And I hope we can all continue to do this, and we all can continue to support Yemen, support Palestine, support any other nation that needs us. And you know, when we're all here encouraging each other, it's, you know, our heart gets stronger, and it's the heart that drives people. So if you nurture it or you help nurture someone else's, it can grow as strong as you need it to. Thank you.
If any of the Yemenis want to say something when we recite the poetry, spoken word literature, you guys can come up, let us know. You're all free to speak here. Come on, Yemen, Hassan.
So please help me welcome in our next speaker, Sabina Suri. She will be sharing a poem.
Peaceful sleep. So I wrote a poem directly quoting my sister, describing what she's seen and what she's heard. Last Friday, I sent a message to my sister Sada. Ignorant to the cruelty of man, I awaited her response, but hours passed and it wasn't long before my feed was flooded with another crime against humanity. At least 70 civilian lives have become targets of greed. At least 70 civilian lives and the other crimes they plan to hide by disconnecting Yemen from the rest of the world. We spent 4 days following the news, examining pictures, terrified we'd recognize a neighborhood. 4 days of sending messages, hoping one would reach her. We even wrote our goodbyes, and my mother would constantly apologize. I'm sorry, I can't help the tears. I can't help but worry. Sada, we saw more than 70 civilian lives buried under rubble. We saw what happens when the wicked lead countries. Civilians become casualties in the pretense of war. 4 days, and we finally received a response. I'm alive. She said, I'm alive, but every night it's become harder to live. Night has become daunting and the days are full of dread. When darkness blankets the skies of Yemen, the engines of an aircraft force us awake. She says, I could hear the bomb twisting in the air, choosing its next victim. The bedroom doors fling open when the ground shakes from impact. She's become jealous of the deaf and blind who can't hear people beg for their lives, who can't see destroyed buildings or the blank stares of the dead. She says she feels like she's going crazy, collapsing from exhaustion, terrified of sleep, terrified that she might not wake up if her eyes close longer than a second. She flinches from the sounds of cars driving by, and standing before a window has become a game of roulette. Which one will shatter first? Shards of glass flying everywhere. Oh, how they wish they built their homes without windows, but a room without a window is merely a grave. She says it's okay though. They have a plan. That when they feel an aircraft creep above them, her husband rushes to open the windows. Our 15-year-old niece grabs loose items off the shelves, and our 10-year-old nephew Hani rushes to comfort her. He says he's used to it. He grew up to the sounds of bombs and flying bullets, but you could hear the tremble in his voice. You could see the shake in his hands as he reaches out to my sister, trying to grasp any fleeting moment of comfort. Their lives are defined by their ability to survive the night. That their main worry is if their death will be painful or too quick to be painful. To the children of Yemen, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that it's taking us this long. I'm sorry your blood had to paint the streets. I'm sorry that the outline of your ribcage wasn't enough for us. I'm sorry that you cried until you felt like you weren't loud enough, that acceptance was the only solution, that silence was food for the living, that peace was swallowing your pain, even if it burned your throat. But there will never be peace without justice. There will never be peace if Saudi and the UAE continue to harass you in your homes. There will never be peace if the US continues to fund your murder. And there will never be peace if the Houthis continue to destroy and terrorize the people of Yemen.
Thanks so much, Cecily. When I was in middle school, I went to Yemen for the first time. And when I went to Yemen, I experienced something like I never experienced before in my life. You go to the neighborhoods, you go to the hadas, you see all the brothers, you see your friends and everything. And a lot of the kids in Yemen don't have nothing. They struggle to support their own families. some don't have the opportunity to come to this country and live like the life that we're living today. And I had so many friends who had literally nothing. They would struggle to make to get a meal for their family. And it's crazy because like you come to this country, we get very ungrateful for what we have. We have a bed, we have a home, we're experiencing an amazing life here. And it's like we always forget like the stuff that we have. You come home to a brother, to a sister, you have 2 arms, 2 legs. You go to Yemen, you see a lot of families losing kids that haven't even experienced life yet, haven't even grew up. And I had a cousin that was really close to me. It's like you guys probably had cousins as well. Like you guys all probably have cousins that you're really close to. Each and one of you guys probably can name one cousin that you guys love like with all your hearts. This kid was living in bad conditions. He was like my everything. When I left Yemen, the war was still going on. This war, like everything been going on for many years. And when I left, Saudi Arabia decided to bomb a residential area where people are living. This is not a war zone. And it's crazy to me because they came and literally dropped a missile right around where they were living. It destroyed their home, everything. Literally, this is my cousin, and these kids had nothing to do with the war that's going on in Yemen. These kids are dying every day in Yemen. These kids are struggling to eat. They can't. I was talking to my cousins literally the other day. They said they couldn't sleep. They seen bombings and like happening literally the same like what was it, like a couple of days ago. So that's what I was saying. Yeah, see, I'm bad at speaking, but my family's house ended up getting attacked. The whole family was knocked out. The whole family was knocked out. Literally, when the only person that woke up from the bombing was the mom. And you guys know how like a mom's heart is. Like a mom loves their children so much. My aunt took out all the rubble from the attack. She took out her baby child. He lost his arm. She took out her daughter. She was okay. She was knocked out cold. She took out her husband. And as she was reaching in for the oldest son, which is my cousin, my best friend, she reached in. And when she took him out, her hand literally went through his head. Literally. And it's like... It really messed me up, bro, because that was my best friend, and I don't understand why this war is still happening between Yemen. I wish it was peace by now. Like, it's been happening for like years. We've been losing like so many people, so many family members, bro. It's so crazy to me. I honestly don't know. Nah. This is a story that will happen every day, and it will keep repeating. If we don't stand together and say stop this and stop the war and let it come to an end. We have our next speaker. Hopefully, we have some chance that.
I'm Adam, and I'm happy that we're all gathered here today. And I came here with my friend, and he's from Yemen, and he's more like a brother to me. And to stand here and gather as one today and make peace for Yemen. We come here today as a voice for us to be heard. No more conflict, no more suffering, no more war, please, that's it. Enough is enough. And all we ask for today is peace. Peace for Yemen! 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 Saudi out of Yemen now! Saudi out of Yemen now! Iran out of Yemen now! Iran out of Yemen now! Whoever you may be! Whoever you may be! Stop killing enemies! Stop killing enemies!
As a reminder, once again, we're here against everybody. Whoever held a Yemeni innocent, we're here to say, stop this. We have our next speaker, Brother Ahmed. I'm here. I have a poem from my friend Abdullah al-Maghribi, who couldn't make it today, so shame on him. وفي الليلة الظلماء بزغ الظلم. لماذا أصبحت غريبة؟ لماذا ليست كما ذي قبل؟ هل ألين القلوب توفيت؟ أم هل أفئدة العالم تصلبت؟ أنا لا زلت هنا. لقد رحل جسدي ولكن روحي تأبى الرحيل. أغلقت صفحات التاريخ وجف القلم. لم تكتب الكلمات ولكننا شعرنا بالألم. وتوقفت رياحنا عن رفرفة العلم. ولا زال قلمنا وحرفنا يميل. أنا لا زلت هنا. لقد تلذذ بشوائنا روحا قبل شزد. ورمونا بعيدا لحما طريا حتى فسد. أنا لا زلت هنا. ما زال الوطن في أول السطر. إذا كان القلب يضخ دما فاليوم أصبح يعتصر. أنا لا زلت هنا.
So as Brother Saleh said, someone would like me to read this statement. They don't want to be identified, so I'll just get started. Bismillah. In the name of the most merciful and kind, I begin by praising Him and Him only. Here we are yet again, mourning our people, mourning our land. But today, we are not just mourning. Today, we come with rage. What the Yemeni people have endured the past 6 to 7 years is a tragedy that puts humanity to shame. Innocent lives taken on the daily at the hands of parties sitting under the shade of their indecency and greed. Parties that decorate their humanitarian medals with Yemeni blood. Parties that starve the Yemeni people to feed the war machines. To the Saudi-led coalition, the Yemeni people that you continue to drop drones on, the young kids you continue to deprive of peace, of family, of life, the houses you've shelled, the limbs that you've scattered on the concrete will all testify against you on a day where you cannot hide behind your power. On a day you cannot manipulate the grayness of Yemeni skies. On a day where you cannot use our land as the place to test your drones and machines. Greater empires have crumbled and your time will come too. The Saudi-led coalition for the last 7 years has destabilized and destroyed Yemen at the cost of innocent lives under the pretext that it is fighting Houthis, yet we'll see nothing but the opposite. We've seen a coalition that regards the human life of the Yemeni people as collateral damage. We see a coalition that has emboldened the Houthis and allowed for them to run with the narrative that they are revolutionaries, when they are nothing but a violent, despicable militia group profiting, profiting off the blood that is spilled even more. Yemen will not be freed by Saudi-led coalition, nor will it be freed by the Houthi killers. It will be freed by the brave Yemeni people. Our money as American citizens cannot continue to fund these atrocities. We cannot continue to fund the killing of innocent children. We cannot continue to fund the killing of fathers, mothers, of siblings. We must be angry. We must take this personal, because it is. So we call on the coalition to stop killing Yemenis. We also call on the Houthis to stop killing Yemenis. We call on the world to stand with Yemenis. Thank you.
From the Shemali side, and you could tell from my side there's a lot of racism, saying Shemalis, who gives a shit about them, they deserve this and that. My family's also mixed with Shemali or Gunubi or whatever. And what I learned is, first of all, when it comes to the protest, I don't see a lot of Yemenis. You guys were there for the Palestine thing because it was fun. You had your makeup on, you had your friends, the weather was nice. Were you really there to support, or were you really there to have fun? And the other thing is, bro, like you don't need to be a millionaire to save, to donate, share, respect each other's brothers and sisters. You can't just, like me, for me, I was selling these bracelets 2 years ago to donate to Yemen, to Sana'a, right? And my neighborhood's filled with Yafi'is, the other side, and literally like 10%, literally only 10% people donated because they're like, Sana'a, who gives a shit about them? They don't deserve it, they don't this and that. It doesn't even matter who's right or wrong. The second you're killing kids, you're killing innocent people, it's genocide. It doesn't matter, bro. And I have family, they live in Saudi, they're getting kicked out. They're getting jailed for nothing. It's like, at the end of the day, you guys aren't doing enough unless it's a family member or unless it's a friend that's getting hurt. You guys posting and you think you did enough. You didn't do enough. It's 2022. You guys have mad shit you could do. I've never been to my homeland. And 5 years ago, I was embarrassed being from Yemen. I always disassociated myself from the Yemen culture. And now that I've learned more about my culture and stuff, you have to embrace it. Yemenis aren't, they're ghetto or they're trash or whatever and stuff like that. Yemen is the original Arab, and you have to embrace that, and you have to do more to help. Don't wait till it's too late. What if it was your family? What if it was your kids?
Again, you guys can come closer if you want. So we facing the the Saudi together. And don't you cry! Yemen, don't you cry! We will never let you down! We will never let you die! That is Yemen, don't you cry! That is Yemen, don't you cry! We will never let you down! We will never let you die! Yemenis are not numbers! 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 What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down!
While I stand here today, healthy and safe, alhamdulillah, it shatters me to say the people of Yemen are not. In fact, they are far from it. As innocent civilians in Yemen are bombarded by sudden missile attacks and killed in cold blood, we are here, safe. When I was able to attend and graduate from a university and obtain an education, an airstrike by the Saudi and Emirati-led coalition had a school bus in Yemen, killed 4 children and a dozen more. While I am able to be hospitalized for any minor injury, their hospitals not only are flooding with blood for years, but are mainly targeted for attack. And while I sleep soundly under my warm blanket, a child in Yemen is currently sleeping under the cold rocks of their corrupted homes, peeking through the harsh cracks, waiting to be found, crying, afraid, wondering where his mother and sister are, only to be told later on that they did not make it. When will this stop? When? I often ask myself, what did I do to deserve it? To deserve the safety and lifestyle that my people back home cannot access. What disturbs my heart the most is that the country that I reside in the country that I paid my taxes to, the country that I rightfully participate in voting for, the country that gave me a better life is the same country that is aiding the worsening of their lives. The same country that gave me a better life is the same country that's aiding the worsening of their lives. The lives of our beloved people of Yemen. Please stop Yemen from bleeding. Please. They have been silently suffering for too long. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. So we actually have two brothers, they want to speak, but before that we're gonna do one more chant.
When I was in Yemen, my experience was actually good, but when I see the other kids and I see the fear, I actually felt bad for them that they live to see the war and they live to think that they are scared. The people there are scared of the kids, and we need justice for these kids. So, what do we want? When do we want it? I just want to add on by saying, imagine living in fear of in your homeland and just not knowing if today's the day you die. That's not how we want to live, and that's why we need justice now, and that's why we need to change it. That's why what do we need? Justice! When do we need it? Now! Thank you.
Thank you. So our last speaker will be our brother from Palestine. He want to share a message to his brothers in Yemen. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say, as on behalf of all the Palestinian community, I know that there's not a lot of us over here today, and I know that all the Yemenis, you guys showed support for us in entire summer. And it's a shame that not many of us can make it here to stand for Yemeni human rights. Because at the end of the day, the United States in Palestine and in Yemen, the United States is funding the genocide and the ethnic cleansing going on in both Palestine and in Yemen. The United States is funding the Zionist state, and they're funding the Saudi Arabian states. They fund them with weapons. And what do they do with these weapons? What do they do with this money? They kill, and they kill, and they kill. And who's suffering at the end of the day as these politicians just help each other for their own political interests? Who's suffering at the end of the day? It's the Yemeni children, it's the Palestinian children from Gaza and in Sana'a. All over there is suffering, and the only people who are benefiting are the politicians, are the United States and the Saudi Arabian embassy, which I believe is behind me. These are the only people benefiting off of the genocide going on in Yemen. I remember a few years ago, when I started to learn more about the situation in Yemen, I learned about how the United States funded a missile that Saudi Arabia used on a bus full of Yemeni children. Why did this have to happen? Why did Yemeni children on a school bus have to get bombed? And I remember all the time when Gaza is in danger, the Yemeni people, despite what's going on in Yemen, despite the Yemeni people facing their own problems, when Gaza is in trouble, the Yemeni people would come and they would protest in huge numbers for Palestine. And that's something we have to see more over here in America. We all have to come together. We have to continue to come together for Yemen. And, you know, من فلسطين هنا اليمن. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, we have maybe one of the youngest people here. He wants to just say something, and we're gonna end up.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Abdurrahman, and I would like to speak on the behalf of all my Yemenis, I would like to say that Saudi Arabia has no sympathy towards the children and women of Yemen. They have been using nuclear bombs to terrorize Yemen. I think it's time to speak out, not only for myself, but for the world to hear Yemen's cry. Like, I would just like to say, like, we need justice right now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. So that's bring our program to the end. Once again, thank you all for coming today, and make sure to follow us on social media, Bridges for Yemen, for the next step. And that's not gonna be the end. That's just the beginning.
Yes!
That's just the beginning.
Yes!
We're gonna continue doing this till we stop this war. So our Instagram, it's at Bridges for Yemen. So for the next step, so we can, we need to stop this. We need to work together and stop this. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's cold, and you guys showing up. That's so much appreciate. So yeah, our program's end. Thank you.
Thank you.